Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Carlton People. We are post-season 2023, so we're a bit happier this time around doing these episodes. Now, in today's episode, I've got Brandon with me. Well, firstly, hello, Brandon.
Hey, Des.
How are you?
Good, mate.
This is a long time coming, this one.
Yeah, it is. Talked about a year ago. We were planning to do this post-2022 season, but got dragged out a little bit.
I think it was for the best.
Yeah, probably.
Because we're about to talk about, well, you, and I think now that we can reflect on Carlton, it's better to do it after season 2023 because things seem to be a bit more optimistic.
That's it, yeah.
Now, we should probably give some context here. You are the owner of a very popular Instagram account, blues.afl.
Yep.
Why don't you start with telling us about blues.afl?
Yeah, so I started that 2019, something like that. And at the start, it wasn't really meant to be, I wasn't really expecting it to get to where it got to, but as soon as it started to grow a little bit, you just figure out, I'm doing something here, I'll just push on with it. And yeah, I just didn't expect it to get as big as it got 4 years down the track.
No, mate, no. We'll touch on it, certainly, but I think it's good. Is this the first time anyone will have seen you?
Probably, yeah, I'd say so.
Well, mate, thank you. Thank you for making it on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. All right. So, mate, tell us, how did you become a Carlton supporter? Where does your story begin?
Well, I was originally born a Richmond supporter. So, yeah, my mum was Richmond, so she just made me a Richmond fan. And then I think this is the story I got told by the time I was maybe like 2 years old. They said, my dad, because he was Carlton, he just said, what colour do you like the best? I go, yeah, blue. So that's how I became a Carlton supporter, just because I like the colour blue.
That was it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, mum's Richmond, dad's Carlton.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's your first memory of Carlton?
I think we were 2007, so I would have been 5. I remember just going to the practice match at Marvel, or Eddie had at the time. It was against North Melbourne. I went with my granddad. I think we won. I don't remember too much of the result, but I just remember going. I remember walking to Marvel, Eddie had, when I was like 5 years old. For some reason, that just stuck with me.
I have a very similar story of watching a game, like my first memory, but I don't actually remember the score or what happened. I just remember that we played St Kilda, and I just remember heckling people in the crowd and just getting in people's faces, and just this silly little 5-year-old kid just screaming at people and just screaming "Go Blues" and borderline squealing, because at that age your voice hasn't dropped, so it sounds a little different to what it would now.
Yeah, I was always a pretty shy supporter when I went to games. I could get into it when I got a little bit older, but when I was just a little bit younger, I'd just be dead silent watching games.
Yeah, no, fair. What about some of your highlights as a early supporter? Like, what, I mean, obviously your first memory hooks you in. How many more layers are there to you before you started really getting into it?
Well, quite honestly, I reckon probably that 2013 elimination final against the Tigers. I remember watching that at home. Then, like, at the time, I was into footy, but like I didn't really care had we won or lost. I'd be disappointed had we lost, but I'd not lose sleep over it like I would now. So probably that 2013 elimination final was when I really kicked in. Like I remember like small games before that and all that, but I just didn't really capture it as I do now. And then there was probably a patch through 2014 to 2017 where I just went off it completely. Just I cared, but I just didn't watch games too much. I'd keep up with it, but that'd be about it. 2018 happened. We all know what happened there. I was working at Macca's at the time, and like I'd check the score after. I remember that Giants game at Marvel in 2018. We lost by like 100 something points. I remember just looking at the score. I'm like, yeah, I don't care.
I'm not watching this.
I'm watching this now.
How old were you? When were you born?
I was born 2002.
2002. Wow, that's wild. That is wild. It's funny. for so many years we've been talking about the generational gap that we have,
Yeah,
and I feel like we've got like, we'll call them the golden generation, the ones that saw the success, and I would go as close to say almost 2 generations passed before we started experiencing the club as a whole, as a successful club, as a good team. You know, we had a little bit there, 2010 to
yeah,
2012-ish. It was like a little taste. It was so unfair. We're only giving a couple of years, but now, I don't know. What do you think? How do you see this group? Do you think this group will have a bit more of a sustained period of success than the previous?
yeah, absolutely. I think that 2010 to 2012 era was just. I think that was the peak of that group. I didn't think that group could go any further. I think at the start of 2012 we got pretty excited because we won our first 3 games by like 10, 10 goals or something like that. We thought this is actually going to be the turning point. We're winning the flag this year, and then we finished 10th. So, but nah, this group's definitely the first group I think since probably that late 90s that like you can genuinely say we're a flag contender heading into next season.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, you did mention 2018 getting smashed by the Giants when they had, what was it? It was like 2 players on the bench in the end, wasn't it? I think there was like 9 minutes left. It's funny how years go on and the story gets more wild and like some of the facts get forgotten. I went back one day and had a look, and I looked, there was like 9 minutes to go and they had 2 players on the bench.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, and that I didn't watch any. I didn't watch any of that game, but like you've just heard this. You just hear the stories of they had like 2 players than us, and we just still got belted around the ground. But this just shows how far we've come over the last few years.
Yeah. Who were your Did you latch on to any players early on, like as your favorites that you watched more closely than others?
Definitely Brendan Favola, because when I was at Auskick, you know how he had that like trademark set shot routine, like we'd hold the ball, like very unique. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to hold. You get absolutely drilled by my parents to be able to be like, you're not meant to hold the football like that. So yeah, he was definitely my inspiration growing up, and that's why when I did play local footy when I was younger, I wanted to be that forward. I was absolutely garbage at football, but I gave it a crack, and yeah, Fev and Chris Judd, I reckon, were probably the two that in that era when I could actually understand what was happening. They were the ones that I latched onto a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have any now that you latch onto from this modern group, we'll call them?
I just love Sam Walsh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Saw
It's
on Carlton
crazy.
video just yesterday about how like disappointed he was after that Essendon loss. You just see, yeah, he's definitely the future captain. It's either him or Wiedering, but I just think it has to be Walsh.
Yeah, he's always, from when the moment he arrived at the club, he's always had this seriousness about him. Like you look at players, some of them have certain characteristics, some of them are a little bit more jovial, a bit more fun, cracking jokes, smiling. But Sam Walsh has always had that seriousness. It's like he's always wanted to be a great AFL player, always wanted to be a captain, always wanted to be a leader. And it's crazy. He's still so young.
He's 23, 22, 23. He hasn't even hit his prime.
Yeah. No,
And
that's the wild part.
it's just crazy how he didn't have any preseason whatsoever. Like professional field of the surgery he had to miss up to half of the season. And then he's had that hamstring late in the year, and he's just come into the final series and done that. Like it's just unbelievable. So I really think get a full preseason into him, and could be anything.
Yeah. How do you watch games at the moment? Do you go to most games? Like, what's your story?
I haven't been to a game in a little while now. I stay at home for the most part and just watch them. I'm just gonna make a commitment to get to a few next year for sure. No, I didn't get to any this year, unfortunately.
Yeah. Fair. Fair. Well, let's talk about this year. Where to begin? It's almost like 2 seasons in one.
It really was, yeah. I couldn't believe it. Just that first half of the season, because I've always been a little bit of that, not pessimistic, but I just don't really see like the blind faith when it comes to it's going to be our year, because like what evidence did we have before like that? Like we had a 10-week patch in 2022 where we could go can we just put that into next season and just build on that? But like, it's just that turn from where we were to now is just unbelievable. Just the maturity of the group showed in that like 9 week patch where we just could not win a game. Like we beat the Eagles, I think, and that was the only win for like 9 weeks. So it just really showed the maturity and like how we could just go from that point to where we are now in the space of one season technically, because it all happened in the 1 year.
Yeah. I think so. When I ask most people, like, when was the turning point, most will say Gold Coast quarter time. When you listen to the players talk about it, I know Wiedering mentioned the Essendon game. He also mentioned the Collingwood game. I think after Collingwood, there was the camp. But I've seen a few of them have a different opinion. I've heard Sydney was the turning point. I've heard Essendon was the turning point. How do you reflect on the turning point and what actually happened?
At that Sydney game, we started really well. I remember we just dominated that first quarter in a bit. We just couldn't put it on the scoreboard, which was our issue at the time. We just couldn't score. And when Sydney had their chances, they just blew us away. So I was pretty annoyed against that with that Sydney game just because of how well we started, just couldn't go on with it. But I do think we showed glimpses in that Essendon game. Like I think we might have even been leading at halftime, or we're just trailing by a little bit. We just said we just take our few chances, we win this game, and then Essendon just had that third quarter where they just blew us out of the park. So I do think it was that Essendon game we really started showing signs of trying to take it on, and just being a bit more brave and showing a bit more dare and flash. I don't think it was the Gold Coast game because we started that game like really average. It was just that second quarter we just clicked. But I do think for the main part, the turning point was that Essendon game.
Yeah. What was your haven't asked anyone this yet. What was your best performance of the year? Like, which game do you think we actually put it all together the best?
The game that made me genuinely believe we're doing something was, I think, Port Adelaide. Because we played really well against Freo, and that quite surprised me because Freo at home on rolled over and won by like 10 goals. But I think Port Adelaide, like they were missing a few players, but like they were 12, 13 wins in a row, something like that. They had most of their team on the park, and we just ran over them pretty much really easily. It looked like they were playing their second side. So I do think Port Adelaide was like the game that made me go, that's like we're on the right track now, I think.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, that's not to take away from the Collingwood game. They were at full strength. I think it might have been one of the better wins. But the game where I think for the most part, our best 22 was on the park for the year. The structure defeated the structure was the Port game. And I'm with you. Like, Freo was really impressed because it was an away game. And like, I know talking now, Freo didn't make the 8, but I think if you had it said at the start of the year, we're going to beat Freo by 9, 10 goals in Freo later in the year, and then even more so in the middle of the year, if you had said that, I would have said you were crazy. But yeah, Port had a different bit of a confidence about it that it was going to be a run, and we hadn't won. I think we had won 4 in a row the year before, but we had never won 5 in a row for like 20 years, and that's when I thought it was different, when I saw us win 5 in a row for the first time.
Yeah, I think 2000 was it 2000 the last time we won 5 in a row. And I remember we won 4 in a row last year, and I think we won 4 in a row back in 2016, something like that. But this 4 in a row was like bloody convincing, you know. I think 550 plus points wins in a row. Like we'd never seen a 50 point win in 10 years before that.
Yeah.
No, that was the turning point that made me go, this is real. This is something actually happening here.
So do you have, not blind faith, but do you have, going into the future now, based off what you saw this year, do you have confidence that, we can go a step further?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like this year was too early for the group to actually win a flag. It would have been quite like the Bulldogs in 2016. They just came from the clouds and won it all in the one hit, and then didn't really do much after that. I feel like this year we're kind of we set ourselves up for a bit more of a 5-6 year period where we can actually contend. And I think had we beaten Brisbane, had we lost to Collingwood in a grand final, I think that would have definitely mentally stuffed us up a lot more than losing
Yeah.
like Dom really Brisbane at the Gabba. So I don't think it's the worst thing that we lost to Brisbane there. Because I don't think I could have mentally handled the Carlton Collingwood grand final.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. Do you think we were a little scarred from the end of 2022?
Oh, definitely, yeah. They said internally, no, they're not, but you could just tell some that we won, I think, 3 of our first 4 games, and we could just tell some was still off.
Yep.
GWS win was just terrible. The North Melbourne win was just unconvincing, and then we got belted by Adelaide, and at that point you just go, yeah, we're in for a long little period here. I didn't think it extended 6 straight losses, but it's good that we were able to work our way through it and held our nerve. Because old Carlton would have just panicked and probably, got rid of Walsh or got rid of some of the senior assistants.
Wow, old Carlton, red time goals, unaccountable, 5-goal swings.
No, we've come far, haven't we?
What was the best win for you this year?
Yeah, you got to say the Melbourne semi-final, but I feel like that Melbourne round 22, that was the point where, because I just felt like we were due for a loss, and you thought that was going to come against St Kilda, and we still found a way to pinch that and win by 3 goals or so. But then that Melbourne game the week after, that was the best I've ever felt as a Carlton fan. I think that Melbourne win in round 22. So I think that's probably my win of the year personally.
That's a funny point. And I feel like, we have a really good memory as supporters. The future will tell us how it plays out. But, we were hanging on to so many of these little wins that we can reflect on now. Like, we're hanging on to 2013 elimination final, 2017 against the Giants, 2020 against the Cats, like these like little wins along the way. And then all of a sudden this year you've got, I really believe there's 5, maybe 6 wins in 2023 alone, which are better than any win that we were talking about beforehand. And that Melbourne game, the first one, I'm with you. That was massive. And I think because we ended up playing them in the semi, as the years go on, naturally people will look back and remember the semi, but I wonder how much we're going to remember that that win early in the season. I think it was round 21 or 22.
Yeah, we had like one win a few years ago. We just claimed onto that, obviously, as you said, but we just had win after win after win that you couldn't really soak in that really good win, because the next week we'd have another really good win, and that just continued on until obviously that day semi-final. So you go back to some of those really good wins late in the year, and like they just don't really get the credit they deserve, because the next week we'd have an even bigger win.
True. Who is, in your view, one of the next layers to this puzzle that can really impact the group, whether they're a young player that's going to, break out, or whether it's a player that's already on the list that you think's got a bit of experience that'll help us?
I think Brody Kemp. I think he took a really good step in 2023, and I feel like he's only 22 as well. So we've just got that really young core of like coming up leaders that it's really going to have an impact. And I think his year was just exceptional. I did not expect him to crack into the side like that and stay there as he did. So I'm really proud of how he did that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought he had potential. I thought this year would be the springboard, and I thought next year would be the real breakout year. And it might still be that way. He might still go up another level next year. I think he's that talented. And if you circle back to his draft year, he was touted as a top 5 pick before he got injured. So there's a bit of that element to the piece as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, I didn't honestly think he'd come as far as he did, like in that 1 year. Because a lot of our draft picks, like obviously Phil, who's just been delisted, like some of those like picks that just can't get on the park for as long as they can, like they could just eventually just fall down the pecking order and eventually just don't end up on the list. So the way he fought back, because he'd only played 3 or 4 senior games before this year. He played a few last year because of just the amount of injuries we had in that back line. But this year he just really took that step, and now I think he got dropped for the prelim, but he's easily in our best side, I think, heading into 2024.
Yeah. Blues.afl. Tell
Yeah.
us everything. What's the story?
Yeah, well, it's hard because I think when I started that page, I didn't have like your KOs or your Foxtels or anything, so I couldn't really watch any of the games unless they were on Channel 7. So I'd have to just keep an eye on the AFL app, and eventually, like I just wanted to document where we were at because remember that game against the Bulldogs in round 5, 2019? Like we just smacked them, and then Hawthorn the week after we just fell short. And I really did think that was the turning point. Yeah,
Same.
I think that was the turning point. So I'm like, I want to document this. So I think one of my first posts on that page was, I think it was Liam Stocker debuting, which was against North the week after. Because I just really wanted, to just document where we were starting. Because I'd seen a few Carlton pages on Instagram and all that, and they were doing pretty well, and I just wanted to get in on it. Yeah, I started that. I had no clue how to edit, no clue how to do any of it. So literally my first, if you want to scroll back so far, you can just see a bunch of my first posts are just screenshots of the Carlton page, and I just post that. So that was
Yeah, man.
starting. So it just shows you can start with absolutely nothing as long as you're committed to doing it. You can just
Yep.
go pretty far with it all.
100%. Yeah, I'm with you. I haven't deleted a single post or a video on this channel. And if you scroll back to like the earliest videos, or if you just go, tab and you order it from the oldest, oh my God, man, some of my thumbnails, it's embarrassing. But also, you kind of gotta be shit at the start, and you want to look back, and you want to look back and say, oh, I'm a lot better now, or things are a lot better now.
Yeah, I think a few years ago I deleted a couple of my really early posts because I was just like, "What the hell is this? This is terrible." I did want to keep a majority of them just to look back in a few years as we are where we are now and just see how far I've come. So I'm pretty proud of myself in that aspect, but there's still a long way to go with it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Nah, listen, you should be proud. I mean, I've been speaking to you for a couple of years. Um, Obviously, we've got like a nice, solid little age gap. You're as old as my brother.
Yeah,
You're 1 year younger than my brother, and so it's cool to hear you talk the way you talk now. The level of maturity that you're sort of starting to move into. What have you learned along the journey?
um, don't be desperate to try and gain as fast as you can. Just let it play out.
Yes.
Yeah, start up all the follow for follow bullshit I got into when I was in 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Eventually you learn. Just enjoy what you're doing. Don't try and force anything. Just let it play out. It'll gain naturally. If you really want to go to that next stage, just be dedicated to it. Try and post every day. Just try and be a little bit original with your ideas and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so interesting how far the platforms come. Well, all of them. I mean, when I was 16 or 17, Instagram came out, and I remember like there was not much like it beforehand. Like Facebook was before that, and then MySpace, etc. And I remember for like 5 years, I'm like, something's happening. I don't know what's happening, but something's happening in the world. It's really changed. So I'm officially like in that era where I remember pre-iPhone and post-iPhone. I'm right in the middle. So I look back now and I feel like I was like, my 5 year sort of generation is like we were like the guinea pigs, so to speak. We were like the teenagers on social media and on Instagram and just like posting everything. And then yeah, I didn't start my page until I think 2018, maybe 29. No, 2018. I think I started the page, and it didn't really click for me of what was actually happening until probably 2020, 2021. And now I'm like, well, what happens now? There hasn't really been a platform that's taken over like a photo sharing um, platform like Instagram since. How do you view the landscape of everything?
Yeah, well, I'm only on the one platform. Like I've got Twitter and all that, so I can get the news as fast as possible. I don't really post on Twitter.
Yeah,
There's a lot of other apps and all that, but I don't really use any of them because I just wanted to be dedicated to the one. Obviously, there's YouTube. You do Twitter, you do Instagram as well, so a little bit bigger in that aspect. But no, it's how it's all developed is pretty impressive because there's not really, as you said, there's not really any other app or anything that's similar to Instagram in the way. So it's quite original. Whereas Twitter, you can't really you can post your thoughts and like comments and all that, but it's not really a thing where you go to for like original stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, my main focus is YouTube, and at some point along the journey, uh, probably when I started the channel, I decided like this is my number one, and then the other platforms for me are really just a way to get people to YouTube. I probably started off for going hard on Instagram. That was before I really knew what YouTube was and what it does. Um, and then, I mean, because I was living overseas, and I remember I only had access to like watch AFL, and I was only watching games and like maybe a Monday night show on Fox Footy. Um, and I remember thinking like, there's got to be more. Like, there's got to be more content. And I had a real gripe with the way in which we were being reported. Like, I know we sucked in 2018, 2019, but there was just so much context that was not provided to a lot of the reporting. And I started noticing, I mean, when you read articles and when you listen to opinions and when you watch posts, like you can sort of see the mentality behind them and what they're doing, all the little things. And I always thought like, nah, this is like not the way it's got to be. Like, there's got to be more context. And I think from that point, I'm like, all right, YouTube is the way to do it. This is like the independent media source for Carlton fans. Like, we need something better than what we had.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, even now the mainstream media, like yeah, I still do. I get sucked into it sometimes, but I try not to. I'm trying to get better in that aspect. But like the way they report on like a difficulty, like they just grab onto it. Like even you saw the Clayton Oliver news, like that was completely blown out of a proportion. Obviously the Voss situation halfway through the year, like it looked like he might be gone at the end of the year, and a lot of fans wanted him gone as well, and the media just took that and spun it and made it into something what it was. So it is good to have like you and like other creators on like the YouTube platform to talk about that in a different like manner, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's who knows where it all goes. I do think that what we have at Carlton, in terms of, if you like speak broadly about all the pages and all the content creators, whether they're just on Instagram, whether they're on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, I think we've really soared ahead of the competition in the fan media space, like in the sense of how many people we have doing it. So yeah, what's your thoughts on moving forward? Is it just Instagram? Just keep grinding away on Instagram?
I think so. Yeah, I've got Twitter as I said, but I don't really see the point in doing that. I just want to have my whole focus on just the one platform for now.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to rule out anything in the future, but as for right now, it's probably just stick with Instagram, see how far I can go with that.
Yeah, love it. What do you do outside of Instagram? As in, who are you? Like, what do you do what happens in your world?
I do a fair bit of work. I'm just capital smart. That's that's a 7 to 5 job, Monday to Friday. That does take up a lot of my time, but in the role I do, I'm able to get a little bit of time to if there's news I can post it. So outside of there, if there's news coming up, I'll try and get posts ready at home. So if I have to post it at work, whatever, I can just get it done pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it. I go out rarely, but I'm not really the social type in that aspect of going out on weekends and every night and all that.
Mate, that'll pay you back. I guarantee it. That'll pay you back. There's no doubt about that. That's the sacrifices you make now. They're the ones that'll pay you back later on. No doubt about that. Let's look ahead. What happens in the next couple of years with the group? How do you see it all playing out?
I just want one flag.
Yeah, just one.
More than one would be great, but yeah, because obviously I said at the start, I was born a Richmond supporter, so you can only imagine how I felt in 2017, 2019.
Right.
My mum get all happy because her team's won a flag, and I'm like, I could have been there, and instead I changed to Carlton. But next few years, it's just got to get better, you know. Like there's still work to be done. We took a really big step in 2023, but you don't want that to be the one year you show something and then you just fall back down to that 7, 8, 9 region. Like you would want, like our minimum for next year has to be top 4, I think.
Yeah.
Like Boss was saying that there's no expectations externally, but I think externally with the fans we can set a little bit of a expectation that we should be striving for top 4. Because we saw anything less than that, it's a bloody tough ask if you're going to win the flag from outside the top 4.
Yeah, yeah. What I'm curious about next year is what happens if, I mean, I think every team this year, including Collingwood, who won it, had a patch where they were poor. Like they were, they dropped off. It might have been a 3-game patch or a 4-game patch. I'm really curious what happens and how we react this time around if we end up, say, we lose 2 in a row or 3 in a row, and maybe even 4 in a row. Like let's just say it happens. I don't think it will. I hope it doesn't, but I'm really curious to see how the external, mostly the fans, react. I kind of understand this year we didn't have something in the past to draw on to say, oh, they can get themselves out of it. Whereas moving forward, we now know, oh, they can actually get into an 8 of 9 hole and still make a prelim. So I'm curious to see how we react and how we hold our nerve moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely reckon there's a bit more security in that aspect because we know like we do have the capability to win games against anyone in the comp when we're at our best.
Yeah.
You definitely are. We're a very emotional bunch. Like it's always completely up or just rock bottom. Some of the messages I got at the start of the year and during the year was just like, calm down. But now it's just, yeah, you can definitely sense a bit more security coming out of the fan base following, a fair bit of success we had over the last couple of months.
Yeah. Last question. Everyone gets this question. Which year do you see the group holding up the cup?
24, mate.
We can do it?
It's our year, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
It's just written in the stars, isn't it? I think this year was perfectly aligned for Collingwood, even though we were up there as well. I feel like everything just perfectly fell into place for them. I feel like next year we're just primed to go that one step further. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like 2024, 2025, but hopefully next year we'll get there.
Yeah. It's funny. I've done this series for 4 years now, and I remember at the start, a lot of people were saying 2023/2024, and then I did a couple this year, end of last year, and a couple this year, and that needle kind of moved to 2026, 2027, and I think I've done a couple since the mid-season resurgence, and we're now starting to move back to 23/24. So I always keep an eye on the pulse of the people and where they're thinking.
Yeah, we all do our very early season predictions for next year, and you always feel a little bit stupid inside when you say, "Oh, we'll make the top 4."
Yeah.
But now we actually have physical evidence that we've done it, so we can definitely go to that next level if we're. But it's just not going to be given to us. We've still got to go out and do it, obviously. But no, I really do think we're set up really well for 2024. Just the age bracket of the group, they're all pretty much primed to go to that next stage of their careers. And I think the only players we're going to have over 30 next year are Newman and Doherty. So we're really in that sweet spot that we can contend for the next, not just for next year, but for the next 4 or 5 years. We're in a really good spot with that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. All right, mate. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you jumping on and introducing yourself and letting us know who you are and what you're about. Good luck with everything, and mate, we'll be in touch.
Thanks for having me on, Tez. Cheers.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.